the Baen Free Radio Hour.
On the podcast, I Pee Freely and Crimea River manifest from pun space to rescue Prince Albert in a can before chasing a running refrigerator off a cliff. Mass Market editions and Santa's Workshop editions, plus we continue the complete audiobook serialization of David Weber's Uncompromising Honor. All right now. Welcome to the Baen Free Radio Hour podcast. It's an honor to have you along. I'm Baen Senior Editor Tony Daniel. This time we have an interview with Sharon Lee and Steve Miller, authors of a new Liaden Universe novel, Trader's Leap. This is book 10 millionth in Sharon and Steve's amazing 30-year-long project. And this is a culminating storyline novel, so it's very important and cool book in the series, and Sharon and Steve will tell us all about it. And we continue with the complete audiobook serialization of David Weber's Honor Harrington series masterpiece, Uncompromising Honor. Now here's the news. We are having another amazing ebook special for December. From now until the end of the year, there are discounts on all Michael Z. Williamson ebooks. Yes, it's the Michael Z. Williamson Holiday Mayhem ebook sale. A barrage of Christmas season savings on all of MZW's ebooks. $2 off great Freehold series anthology, Freehold Resistance by Michael Z. Williamson, edited by Michael Z. Williamson, with stories by Larry Correia, Brad Torgerson, Mike Massa, Casey Ezell, and a lot of great writers. Plus, through December, $1 off on all other Michael Z. Williamson ebooks, including everything in Mike's legendary Freehold series. These discounts apply wherever Baen ebooks are sold, so join the mayhem and fill out your holidays with good, jolly holiday reading. It's Holiday Mass Market Edition Joy in December. A lot of great Baen books for your reading and giving pleasure are now available in mass market format. First up is Monster Hunter Guardian by Larry Correia and Sarah A. Hoyt. While the Monster Hunter International crew are called away on a rescue mission, Julie Shackelford is left behind to hold down the fort and care for her newborn son. Julie's devoted to the little guy, yet the slow pace of maternity leave is getting to her. But when a field call brings her face to face with an unspeakable evil, she'll get more excitement than she ever hoped for. Also out in December is Freehold Resistance by Michael Z. Williamson. When the UN invaded the Freehold of Grania, the intent was simple: force a non-compliant star nation back into the collective. What the politicians hadn't accounted for was that the Freehold had spent 200 years as the haven for every independent, rebellious, self-reliant adventurer in human space. Grania's inhabitants have only one goal in mind: make the invaders suffer for their presumption. Finally, in mass market in December is 1636, The Flight of the Nightingale by David Carrico. Two novels set in Eric Flint's best-selling Ring of Fire series shine a light on the overlooked corners of the Ring of Fire universe, where small actions can have life-altering consequences. This one includes two complete novels, The Flight of the Nightingale and Bach, that is Bach the musician, to the future. 1636, The Flight of the Nightingale by David Carrico, Freehold Resistance, edited by Michael Z. Williamson, and Monster Hunter Guardian by Larry Correia and Sarah A. Hoyt are now available in mass market format at booksellers everywhere. And hey, that means the ebook price has gone down as well, so check them out. Hi, I want to welcome Sharon Lee and Steve Miller back to the podcast. Hello, folks.
Hi, Tony.
Hi there.
It's great to see you. I assume you're in Maine, in your
Yes.
headquarters, the Liaden Clan Corval Central base, somewhere up there.
We do call it the Cat Farm and Confusion Factory.
The
official name of the house.
I see. Well, let me, Sharon and Steve are Maine-based writers who teamed up in the late 1980s to bring the world the story of Kinzel. This is the first book, an inept wizard with a love of cats, a thirst for justice, and a staff of true power. Since then, the husband and wife have written dozens of short stories and 20 plus novels, most set in their star-spanning Liaden Universe series. Liaden Universe. There it
And
is.
they make coffee mugs.
The Tree and the Dragon. Yes. Before settling down to the serene and stable life of a science fiction and fantasy writer couple, Steve was a traveling poet, rock band reviewer, reporter, and editor of a string of community newspapers. Sharon has been an advertising copywriter, copy editor on the Nightside News at a small city newspaper, a reporter, a photographer, and a book reviewer. Both credit their newspaper experiences with teaching them the finer points of collaboration. Sharon and Steve passionately believe that reading fiction ought to be fun, and so do we, and that stories are entertainment. And now at booksellers everywhere is Trader's Leap, which is, it looks like that.
Which is a really good book.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. It's got a really cool, it's kind of a greenish, yellowish cast cover this time, which I think it really turned out nicely, actually, with the...
Well, I think it did well. It's on a space station, after all, and it gives that kind of funny light that's not really sunlight.
Now, is that the ambient from the book, or is that somewhere else?
Oh, no, this, as far as we can understand from David, this actually takes place on Vander, which is a space station. Everybody stops at Vander because it's very conveniently located.
Well, so maybe, I mean, it's to dive into the Liaden Universe it's itself an undertaking. Maybe bring us up to, tell us something about the milieu and bring us up to speed on where we are in Trader's Leap at the start of the novel.
Okay, easiest. Trader's Leap is the direct sequel to Alliance of Equals. It starts 2 days after the end of Alliance of Equals. It runs, because we're running multiple storylines here, it runs concurrent, the action in Trader's Leap runs concurrently with the action in Accepting the Lance, which is the 22nd book in the Liaden series. This is the 23rd.
Okay.
Is that okay?
And the series
And Accepting the Lance was just newly out in mass market in November, by the way.
November, yes.
Yes. The series as a whole is a blend of space opera and romance, adventure, action adventure. There is some hidden hard science in there if you're big on hard science. Every so often somebody writes me an email and says, "Oh, did you know this was in there? Gee, you got that right."
Yeah, tell the people who write your book that they did it right this time.
So we do get that. The story, we started working on the story in 1985, writing together based on an idea that Sharon had for some years.
1984.
Okay.
1984, a very good year.
And the original thrust that people saw of the first 7 books was action adventure, what one editor called, and it was sort of a complaint at the time. She said, "You know, this is like John le Carre in space."
And it's like, you say this like it's a bad thing.
However, that was featuring Valcon and Miri, who were featured in, and Sean was later introduced in the next book.
What happened was we wrote a book called the book Agent of Change. Agent of Change was really action adventure and some romance. And while we were waiting to hear, then we submitted the manuscript, as one does. And while we were waiting to hear whether the manuscript had been accepted, we decided to write an exploration, a short story of Valcon's brother. And we kept writing it and kept writing it. We kept calling it the short story. Up until 80,000 words, we called it the short story. And that became Conflict of Honors, the second book.
And we
which is a Sean book. So that's the first Sean book.
That was the first Sean book. And we submitted that to the one publisher understand we started off with the A's when we were, this is in the old days of
the
of
Publishers
publishing.
Marketplace. You remember that? And you just go down.
Yes, indeed.
Science
Yes.
fiction
Writers'
publishers,
Digest,
yes.
and
Went
so
through,
we
you
went-
started at Ace and went through Misha Merlin, and then Bain picked it up many books ago. Now it's really a Bain series.
No, we started on Ace. We started at Ace, and Del Rey picked up the first.
Oh,
We started at Ace, and the book was turned down after a long time by an editor who we happen to know, who was also a fan. And she wrote us a note saying, well, just not quite sure about this. And she liked it, but it was, just sort of John le Carre in space kind of a thing. And eventually what happened is that Del Rey picked it up and published the first three. There was a hiatus then because of editorial changes there at Del Rey. The new incoming editor didn't have the same approach to science fiction for fans that the elder statesman had.
mhm.
And eventually that's when Misha Merlin wrote to us and said, hey, these books are,
Well, Misha Merlin had started as a reprint house. It was they were basically reprinting old paperback originals in more durable copies, because by the time Misha Merlin came around, the Liaden Universe mass markets, Hellspark, a whole bunch of old mass market originals were falling apart. And people were like, my
Yeah.
books are falling apart and I can't
Well, that
replace
was,
them.
people don't remember, but the 80s and even before, of course,
Or ebooks.
were before ebooks. Yes. Well, there were, most books came out in the genres as mass market originals,
right.
and did not have hardcover versions. And so, and some little smaller publishers would put out hardcover versions for the fans. And now we kind of, hardcovers are our bread and butter, although we certainly like our mass markets. They are now reprints.
Yes.
The fact was that Robin Wayne Bailey had spoken to Misha Merlin's publisher on our behalf and without us knowing it, saying these books really deserve to be republished. And we got a phone call in the middle of a snowstorm.
Oh, yes.
Just before a snowstorm, actually. And he said, I've read these three books and I find them
Charming.
I would really like to have a chance to, and I'll make you an offer on them. And while we were talking with them, we explained that actually there were more that were written and more scheduled. And he said, well, okay, well, let me think about that. But you look at my offer. And he gave us the offer. And he said, and I'll call you, call me back when you're ready and we'll talk about it.
And then we had an ice storm and we were out of commission. The power was out for 7 days. And when the power came on, we did not call Steve's mom first. We called the guy in Atlanta who said, ice storm.
That's a nice negotiating tactic.
Yeah, really.
But when we got back to him, we said, but there's some more to the story. And we said, we've got another one that's written. And he said, okay, I'll take it.
And we went, what?
Mm-hmm.
Without having seen it, when we explained that, no, it was actually, we had
7.
planned it out to 7. He said, well, gee, good. I'll take them. Okay.
So we've been trading on our charm for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked.
Yeah.
So those books came out, and the upshot was that we had an action adventure series, but a lot of stuff happened that needed to be expanded on. We know that because people wrote to us and would say, what happened to the taxi driver? What happened to this? What about this? And
so from that, you get that the Liaden Universe is character driven. And every story we tell there's adventure, there's romance, there's personal relationship, there's revenge. But it's basically all about the characters for us.
And you have a wonderful, you guys are in charge, of course, but you have a wonderful sort of relationship with your readers, and
We have the best readers.
Yeah, that's it's key. And I think that's probably the reason the series is so vast and beloved, right? That sort of.
We've had all kinds of good support. We occasionally, more than occasionally, on Facebook, if you forget the color of somebody's eyes or when somebody died or how somebody died, we do scavenger hunt. Can you tell us?
And we have somewhat of an overlap, but I have 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Facebook, and Sharon does as well. And we can just do that. And when did so-and-so die, or do you remember the color of so-and-so's eyes? And
because after so many characters, sometimes you slip. And honestly, these people have read the books more often than I have. Some of them do a yearly reread of now 23 books. Yes.
Yeah. So
Wow. So,
that's dedication.
That is dedication.
And basically, yeah, that's what you're reading that year.
Yes.
So, although some people read extraordinarily,
Some people read really fast.
yeah. So, well, tell us. Let's talk about the books a little bit. What is Dromleys? Because this is a book that's about that. It's about this quality of this universe, which may or may not be ours. Probably is a couple of steps over from us. The Liaden, what are they? Are they Liads? They're the Liaden. They're kind of, they look, they're pretty close to humans, but not quite maybe. And they have this elaborate clan structure, and they're big traders of star traders, make their living that way. So, but this thing that sort of binds. What is Dromleys?
Okay.
I mean, we've done a What is Melanti podcast before, so let's talk about Dromleys this time.
Dromleys. Back when we started writing, this is actually pertinent for a change. Back when we started writing Agent of Change, there was this thing called the Rhine Institute. Does anybody remember the Rhine Institute anymore? Where they were studying psychic phenomenon. They were asking people to predict the roll of a dice or the fall of cards, to foresee, to do all of the things we now know are fantasy, but they were treating them as if they were scientific fact.
In fact, they were calling it parapsychology, rather than saying, well, it's psychology, that's one study of the mind, and parapsychology is the study of the mind, the people who have telekinesis. Can we have somebody maybe sit in Washington, D.C. in a bunker and have him turn that switch in the Russian missile launch site to
mentally.
And there was serious research going on telekinesis, on thought control, and those kinds of things.
So into the Liaden universe, we have Dromleys. These are people, the translation into Terran is wizard. But these are the people who can do psychic exercises. Dromleys is the umbrella term for all of the people who can do these strange things. There is a subterm called healers, and healers look into the hearts and minds of men, and they can heal you of trauma. They can fail to heal you of trauma if they think that you need to learn something from that trauma. They can make you forget. They can, in very extreme circumstances, allow you to die. Sharon Yosgalin is a healer. He is also a master trader, but his second vocation is a healer. He is an empath.
And his life mate, because in this universe it is possible for you to discover the exact match for you, is Priscilla Delacroix E. Mendoza, actually. And she also has some Dromleys talent, but she comes from a different tradition. She comes from a tradition where the Dromleys talent is seen as emanating from a god or from goddesses, from a larger being rather than from within. And that's a different tradition. She was trained differently, and it offers some cultural clash in a number of ways there. And these are the big guys in the field, though. When I say the big guys, the Dromleys are the obvious ones. There are also additional Dromleys talents, including such little things as people who are called lucks. And if you're a luck, you can walk into a room where somebody is playing poker, and if you sit down next to them and you're in favor of them, you like them, their hands will get better.
Yeah, maybe.
And there's a good chance their hands will get better. Not always, and that's the problem with being a luck. Things tend to go, rather if you're flipping coins, they tend to go in your way more often than not. But
But people forget when they talk about luck, they always think about good luck, and luck can flip on you. And what looks like good luck may not turn out to be long-term good luck. Trader's Leap is a book about Dremlings, as you said, because Sean's daughter has just come into her powers. And
That is Shawn and Priscilla's daughter, right?
No, this is Sean's daughter from a previous relationship.
Oh, okay. So Patty is not Priscilla's daughter.
No, Patty fulfills Sean's duty to the clan to produce a child to take his place when he moves on. So Patty is a teenager, and she has just come into her powers, and they're trying to sort her out because they think that she's something quite more than a healer. And if she's a Dremlese, wow, they've never seen one like this before. She's so bright, they keep waiting for her to kind of settle so they can figure out what they have here. At one point, Priscilla is speaking to her. Priscilla became a vessel of a goddess in this culture that she was raised in. And she's explaining this to Patty at one point, and Patty says to her, so the goddess can fill you and move you without your even agreement. And she said, well, I agreed. I mean, I agreed. I was made a servant of the goddess. And Patty's looking at her like, I can't believe you agreed to this. And Priscilla says, well, I was 12 and it was a very great honor. And Patty says to her, can I kill a goddess? Am I strong enough to kill a goddess? And Priscilla says, well, you're certainly strong enough to get her attention.
So we're dealing with some issues of strength here, as well as some issues down at the luck level.
Right.
Yeah. So Patty is like the sui generis thing that they're dealing. So at the end of the last book, Shawn got seriously hurt. He was trying to save an operative of our bad guys, I guess. And he did, but it drained him, right? And it hurt him. And Patty came to his rescue, and she just like bloomed out of this. She'd been trying to suppress this ability, and
right.
Suddenly, and so as we begin the book, she's still not really accepting.
She's not really accepting. Patty wants to be a trader. She doesn't want to be a Dremlese. I mean, being a Dremlese is if she could give it away, she would. And basically, having realized that Shawn has taken a really bad hit, actually, he almost died. The popular wisdom, the wisdom of the elders is, oh my gosh, we've got to get these two disentangled because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what she is, and he's really badly hurt.
And by entangled, there's a sort of psychic connection still between them. Once you heal somebody, you're connected to them.
And that's a key point of the book. Once you heal someone, you're always connected.
There is always a connection there, and
it's entanglement theory.
Yeah, it's a follow-on to entanglement.
Shawn and Patty had many entanglements. He's her father. She's his apprentice. They've now healed each other. So there are many entanglements here. I've lost the thread of the comment. There we go.
It goes that way. So what we're looking at is that there's internal conflict in the family, which would be the family Shawn and Patty. There's conflict in the family, which is Shawn, Priscilla, and Patty, because Priscilla is technically being Shawn's life mate. Priscilla is technically part of that family, but she's also captain of the spaceship. And as captain of the spaceship, as the official pilot, as the captain, she's got to be concerned about the safety of everybody, all of the crew on the spaceship. And what she has here is a time bomb that's wandering around, able to do all kind of stuff that nobody should be able to do.
Yes.
And she could, quote unquote, go off at any time. She might decide that she's really pissed at somebody and punch a hole through the deck. Or she might...
Not through not knowing her own strengths, basically. One of the other things in Trader's Leap is we explore a time in Liaden history that was very dark. The Council of Clans was trying to hold on to control by purging a certain subset of the population, the same subset of the population that the Lux and the small talents come from. Because they just, a Lux doesn't do anything. He just is at the cusp of probability. He may alter something or he may not alter something.
And Liadens are very fond on people being in their proper place at the proper time. This is part of the whole Melanti thing that you had mentioned earlier, which we have covered in a podcast a while back. But it's you should always know, because of Melanti, who you are in this particular situation. What is it you're doing, and who are you responsible to above, and who are you responsible to below, and what those...
And the small talents, it's something as simple as, gee, I can bake better than Steve can. I mean, it's not even on the level of conscious control.
It could be that your yeast never goes bad.
Right. So what happened back in this...
Maybe Sharon has a little bit of Dromleys when it comes to bake. Anyway,
When back in this dark time, when the council was purging these people, Clan Corval helped them relocate to another planet that was in need of colonists. So in this history, this history plays largely into Trader's Leap. Okay.
and this place that they relocated to, it begins to show up, and we get a secondary storyline in the book.
We do.
Well, let's before we get, I want to talk about that because it's such a cool side world in the universe. Talk a little bit about Tarona Rusk, and because she also, her storyline continues from Alliance of Equals into this book.
Tarona Rusk is a bad guy, if you want to put it that way. Tarona Rusk was a Dramlis, and she was suborned by the Department of the Interior. This goes all the way back to book 1 in the series, back to Agent of Change, when we find out that Valcanius Felium has become an agent of change for the Department of the Interior,
the bad guy,
all the way back to there. And Tarona Rusk had been involved with the Department of the Interior. She was strong and bright light, but because of different things that are actually sort of discussed in the book, she was pushed into isolation. And once she was pushed into isolation, the Department of the Interior said, gee, this person can really, really be what we need. She can control other people. She can do this kind of stuff. And so Tarona Rusk, at a cusp, comes face to face with Sean, and has come face to face with Sean, and she's not only ambitious, but she's aware of her total strength. She considers herself someone much, much, much stronger than Sean. And in the previous book, there is sort of a beatdown. She says, I'm going to do this. And he said, you can do that. You can do that. You can do that.
My poor child, you are so broken. I will heal you.
That's his key. He is a healer. He's not a wizard. He is not this, that, or the other per se, but he is a healer. And she goes to come at him, and he says, oh, I will heal you now.
And he does that. He almost dies in the process, but he does do that. And healed, Tarona Rusk, what the department was using Tarona for was to attach other talents, other healers, because the Department of the Interior was all about controlling their agents, controlling their mindsets, and altering their loyalties. And the only way you do that is by subverting healers to make sure that the work has been done and that the work is maintained. So she has attached hundreds of talents to her. and is able to draw on their power when she needs it. But healed, she has keys, she has codes, she knows people. She's going to go back into the Department of the Interior and take her revenge. And Sharon realizes that she's going to do this. As a matter of fact, she's hoping that she will. And what she finds when she goes back in is that his healing has cut loose all of the healers that she has suborned. And they have made a plan of how they're going to go forward, seeing where they are, and not really much liking the Department of the Interior.
So
and the Department of the Interior has, this is the reason that the Clan Corval, who is our hero clan, has had to relocate to the planet Sherbleak and is having to reestablish trade routes and get their wealth back, is because the DOI is against them and has
decided with their last dying breath, they are going to destroy Clan Corval. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And this has been, again, this is book 23, so it's
Yeah,
been
in
threads.
In book 22, they sent a robot army against Sherbleak to blow them out of the water. So they're kind of serious about
Yeah,
this.
they're after him. And Tarona Rusk, as the in effect the epitome of the top, finds herself in a spot where she's got to destroy the department, and as part of that, she realizes that her own existence is probably a problem for the universe. And so there's that kind of flows into the thread of the book as well.
And she finds herself up against the people she had subjugated, who had made their own plan of how they're healers. And we've already seen what healers do when they're confronted with a situation that's evil. And they have made their own plans. Some of the subjugated like her, actually honor her for what she has done and who she is. Others not so much. But one of the key points is that when Sharon healed this woman and cut all of these talents loose, not all of them survived that cutting loose. Separation trauma, I think is what it's called in the book. And some of the smaller talents, like Deluxe, couldn't survive the trauma.
And that brings us back to the Redlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, that brings us back to the Redlands.
The Redlands, the ribbon, where is this? What is this? This is so cool.
They're on the edge of the dust, of course. That's why we haven't seen them before.
Have we
talked about the dust before?
We've talked about the dust before, but the dust is a extremely large cloud of dust that's infiltrating and has infiltrated a portion of a galaxy. And as it's moving through the spiral arm, some planets are getting cut off. It's a very, technically the idea is that from the physics of it, is that the larger a ship is, when it's moving in between, when it's doing what we call jump, the larger a ship is, the clearer its arrival point must be. I'm leaving here, I'm going over there. The dust makes it hard for the very, very large ships to find enough room to jump from this place to that place. So if you're trying to jump from here to there and you can't get a clear enough spot there, you can't get it. You won't finish, which means smaller ships are then able to do the same routes, obviously not with the same kind of economy, not with the same.
So this is actually set up to benefit the Terran loopers, the people who live on small ships and have connecting networks of routes. So they've been working the dust.
They've been trying to work around the edges of the dust, and it's exactly against the Liaden tendency to get big trade ships and take over whole routes and to take over and to be the trade ship that comes to a planet. And so there's extra conflict in between the cultures
the dust has been receding, and the dust has just recently started to recede from the area of space in which the Redlands exist.
And the Redlands is part of the whole system is a strange system. I can't go into all of the
You drew it for me.
the sub-technical physics behind it, because but part of what happens in the Redlands is that psychic abilities like lucks are subject to the ambient, and the ambient is in effect where the energy that permits someone to talk to another person psychically, or to lift a pen from the table psychically, just by power of the mind, is concentrated in the Redlands. And so the people who are on the Redlands are not your normal society.
And one of the things I really, really liked about this book is that when we were in the rest of the Liaden books, we've had to kind of hold back with the Dramleys. They can only do certain things. In the Redlands, we have not only telepathy, we have teleportation. It's like, yeah, let's just have all of those.
Let's do it all at once.
And it was fun to go over the top.
And and you see it fairly early in the book. There's a wonderful scene where somebody is going to visit his aunt, who happens to also be
an oracle
for civilization. There's, again, you will need to read the book for portions of this, but he walks in and he's brought his aunt a cup of tea.
Courtesy. He's carried it up.
He's brought it in with him from his apartment, and then he realizes that he's left his cup at home, so he does this and he pulls it
to him.
He just pulls it to him right
and
there.
He doesn't spill a drop.
And it's an ability because that's what he can do. Other people in the Redlands have other kinds of ability. Into this strange place, we're bringing someone named Patty, who is very strong, and nobody knows what the heck she can do. She's coming into this world. Additionally, coming to this world is a luck who's been, quote unquote, down on his luck for
some time.
A couple who've been down on their luck, as it were, and they're coming in, and we get to have some people who are fresh to the reader, who've never been seen before.
The Denobles. I like them.
Well, the Denobles we started.
Oh well, we've seen them. Right?
We've seen
but
portions of the
them.
Denobles, and also we get
Theomet. Denoble.
and Tekla is
Tekla.
Verstergrans. I believe it's her last name. Verstergrans.
Verstergrans, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, perfectly good. Tekla is the speaker for the Heosa.
All right, so we are divided between the civilized and this other, and the Heosa are not the civilized, right?
That's right. They're the
What does that distinction mean?
Civilization lives by rules. The way the people who are civilized
on the
work
Redlands.
on the Redlands work with the ambient in order to produce their effects is rule bound. You have to do this in order to get this effect. The Heosa have a much more casual relationship with the ambient. They just say, hey, I want a lollipop. And there it is.
They've got their lollipop.
So it's a philosophical difference, but it's considered to be, well, it's made a rift in the society. The Heosa are useful to civilization for many things, but civilization doesn't want anything to do with the Heosa at all.
Well, they have them there. They've got to admit that they're there. Into this mix, unseen directly, only referred to from in the past tense, had come the Reavers, who were people who came from Tarona Rusk, and Tarona Rusk's
There's this whole planet full of talents. What could they not do?
So they Tarona Rusk had sent a bunch of people off to the Redlands, and they were trying to work their way in and to meet more.
And the Heosa were the agents of civilization in that they were trying to track down the Reavers and figure out what they were and to neutralize them. And about that time, Sharon cut all of the ropes, all of the links to Tarona Rusk, and the Reavers died. And now the Heosa are like, oh my God, what do we do? why did they were all talents. They shouldn't have
They
died.
shouldn't have died. They died and we didn't die. What
Yeah,
happened?
what just
is,
happened now?
did the ambient, which is
Not sentient.
not sentient, do this somehow? Was what happened? And
Because all they experienced was these enslaved psychic types that had been attacking them suddenly weren't.
Right.
right.
And
Can
then
you-
they found
Y'all,
some.
excuse me just a minute. My computer's not plugged in for some reason. I'm going to be
Uh-oh.
sure that we don't run out of power. Okay, we're good now. Sorry about
Okay.
that. So, all right. So the Reavers, this,
Off camera it happened.
Off camera. The reason,
yeah, but we hear about it. We hear the backstory in Trader Sleep.
Mhm. And that ties into actually the climatic-less scene of who are the Reavers and why were they there, and Sharon discovering actually the completeness of what he did when he set Tarona Rusk free.
So what is Sean and Patty's interest in going to this place, and what's the
Well,
and the Oracle is sort of foreseeing them coming or something. Is that it, or no, or something else?
It's all, well, it's kind of complicated.
All right.
their
Don't want to.
prime interest is that Clan Corval has recently moving is expensive. The clan needs money, and Sharon is the master trader for the clan. He's got to develop new routes and new trade and give them money.
And additionally, what's happened is that the Department of the Interior had previously been hounding not only Theo Waitley and her ship Pashimo, but the Dutiful Passage, that's Sean's ship,
And the Corval routes.
and harassing the Corval routes, making it so that they can't trade, having them thrown off of planets, doing that kind of thing.
And waging a disinformation campaign, which is very easy to do because Clan Corval did blow a hole in the Liaden.
They actually did that. And so what we have in combination is that Sean needs to come up with a way to bring the routes, build new routes. That's
that
why
are beneficial to Sherbleek also, because Liad's like over here, Sherbleek's here.
and they have whole new things that they have to do. And with the planet just opening up, which is the Redlands, as it's starting to have the dust clear away, maybe they need stuff, and that's why they're going to the Redlands to again try to help establish a new route in combination with it turns out with the Denobly family. The Carrisons Denobly are
Terran traders. They're their family loop. They do the small ship trading that we were talking about, that the dust didn't disrupt so much. And there is I really like this. On Volmer, there is a meeting of Sean and Jennifer Carrison's Denobly and his apprentice and Patty, and it's worth the whole book. I really like that whole interaction there.
We had fun, and the character things of being able to say, well, yeah, here's my tea, and there's a very pressing scene in which Patty is brought before healers in a strange healer hall.
Yeah. No, I want to talk about that. That's my favorite part of the book. Is when Patty.
You're a bad man.
Yeah.
Okay.
When Patty. They
what
push her a
happened-
little too hard.
Well, no, she didn't push him hard in life. I mean, she just stopped at the wall.
Yes.
What's going on is that
Pissed her off.
they're trying to find people who are not involved with Patty,
And who are not involved with Sean.
not involved with Sean. And on the ship, there's three healers.
Sean's life mate and his friends since they were kids together.
And sometime paramour. So there's.
So they're looking actually for healing the reason they go is they're looking for other healers to look at Sean to see what his wounds are exactly, if there's something we need to do that we haven't been doing. And they take Patty because she needs to be sorted, and they think that healers who are not related to Patty might be able to sort her and figure out what to do with her.
So Sean and Lena go to one room with a master healer, and that master healer is observing Sean, trying to figure out, boy, you really got beat up. Why did you do this?
Yes. What did you do to deserve this?
And they have taken Patty, who is known as in this discussion as the emergence, and she's
Her talents have just emerged.
And they take the emergent into another room with a
healer.
With a healer who's kind of a boy.
Well, his problem is that she's too bright, and she should have learned how to make shields. Patty's history is that when she felt that her powers were growing and she didn't want them, she locked them in a psychic closet. So her elders on the Dutiful Passage had been a little tender about telling her that she needs to ride herd on her talent. They just want it to burn until it burns.
Yeah, they want to be able to see what it is she really does, because she's been hiding everything for so long that there was
an explosion.
An explosion, in effect, something that was actually fatal to some people. Justly so, but that she was involved in, and they don't want that happening randomly. They need to know she's got control. So
this fellow has taken her off, and he has told her that she's spoiled and uneducated, which is the way to influence people at all times. And he's going to teach her how to build a shield. So he shows her a shield. He says, open your inner eyes and look at this. This is what a shield looks like. And he shows her hull plate. And then he says, all right, that's what it looks like from the outside. I'm now going to teach you what it looks like from the inside. And he tries to surround her with his shield. And Patty objects to that.
She's not having any of it.
And she pushes him. Meanwhile, Sean in the other room being examined by the master healer, someone starts to scream. And they all go, and run down the hall. Sean breaks through the door, and here's Patty. She's fine. She's fine. She's not screaming. He turns around, and there's the healer, a couple meters off the floor. Was it like this?
Pressed against
the wall, screaming. And Sean's like, well, he doesn't look like he's going to fall, but okay, he could be upset. He could be a tender emotional type. But then he says to him, "You're upsetting my daughter," and the guy stops screaming.
Yeah.
But yes, that was a good scene too. We liked that one.
We had.
Well, it's certainly a demonstration of Patty's awakening and her. She's such a fun character. She's headstrong.
Yeah, you think?
What is Shan trying to trade? What particularly does the Redlands have, by the way, that might be?
He doesn't know.
They want to set up.
Yeah.
That's why it's Trader's Leap. They have taken on some goods that they think a planet that's coming out of the dust might need, and they're also, through arrangements with the Kerrisons de Nobles, and
also with Ixon.
And also with Ixon, which is
another trade family.
Another trade family. They are exploring the possibilities of developing this into a trade unit, a trade loop, and it's experimental. They're all kind of desperate when they go there for different desperations at the same time.
The other reason they're going there is that Sean's father, the master trader before Sean, kept trade diaries, things that he thought might be interesting, and he had been interested in the movement of the dust and the emerging markets that might benefit Corval and might benefit from Corval's trade. So Sean, in a moment of desperation, just goes to look at he wants to talk to his father. He can't. His father's dead. So the next best thing is I'll look at his diaries. And he winds up reading all of them and realizes that Ertom had kind of a plan
20 or 25 years before
the dust had moved, and maybe now is the time to look at that other master trader's plan, which couldn't be completed at the time. So that's also part of why they go to the Redlands.
Yeah. There's one other thing that we haven't discussed yet that I wanted to bring in is the Norbears are here. And
The Norbears are everywhere, yes.
what tell
He's gonna ask us to tell him
what
about
the heck are these? All right, this is one of your two aliens, right? That we have, at least that we know.
They're alien sentiences.
They're
Empaths. They're natural empaths.
let us call them empaths, and what they are is something between a Quaker and
A meerkat.
and whatever. We've been working with them for quite some time.
Since Conflict of Honors, the first Sharon book.
They have a sensitivity to emotion. They have
And
they are in effect a civilization without their own toys, without their own artifacts, in that they have ranks within themselves, and they share information. And part of the way they share information is psychically, in effect.
Well, one of my friends had once told me, actually, Uluki Beshahar had started to adopt Prince Charles Spaniels, which are small, fluffy dogs that don't hunt and don't really do anything. And I said to her, "What is the purpose of this dog?" And she said, "The purpose of this dog is to have powerful friends." And that's kind of what Norbears are.
Yes. Yes.
They have a somewhat of a similar nature to the tree cats of David Weber, to me at least. I don't know if you feel that way, but
I'm not familiar, I'm afraid.
We're not familiar enough to say, yeah, they're like.
yeah. Well,
if you want to go back to,
I've got a feeling that's the reason that David likes Liaden Universe so much.
And
I think he likes the Norbears a lot.
Okay.
And you can go back to.
There are worse reasons.
You can go back to Little Fuzzy, and
the H. Beam Piper, yeah.
By H. Beam Piper, and you can go back to Little Fuzzy. There have been any number
go
of.
Back to the Zero Stone. Andre Norton, Eat, if you remember Eat.
And even back in a lot of ways to Willis in Heinlein, although Willis wasn't as originally. Heinlein had a secret for a number of his, I don't want to spoil, but most people have read Heinlein who are at this stage, who've read into 23 of our books probably. But one of the secrets that he knew is that he wanted his intelligences to have arms and hands and the ability to manipulate things. That was important to be bringing in intelligence. And Willis was a small fuzzy ball that kind of looked like a...
But he could extrude things.
Well, but originally he couldn't. See, that was the thing. Willis, as he develops, suddenly is seen to be able to manipulate things. And the same thing with his John Thomas collector.
Oh, yes. Oh, dear. What was his name? No.
I'm going to forget it right now, too.
John Thomas, Star Beast.
Yeah, in Star Beast. I can remember, but I can't remember his name right now. Yeah. In any case, again,
you mean the name of the creature and
the name of the creature
was
who was actually keeping the humans?
Lummox, that was it. Lummox,
yes.
Collecting John Thomases.
He was collecting John Thomases, and he was a mini dinosaurish kind of a thing. But it turned out that they didn't develop their ability to manipulate until later in life, and suddenly he started growing arms. In any case, so much for our knowledge of science fiction history.
Doggone. Okay.
But the thing is that we wanted creatures who were fuzzy and who were cute, and who also had their own kind of powers and their own kind of things. So the Norbears fit into that niche very nicely.
Oh, way back in Mouse and Dragon, Aliana and Dav come up with a Norbear.
Right.
And they come up with a Norbear because they are walking in a port and there is an angry mob stoning a pilot who has a satchel. And the pilot is trying to protect the satchel. No, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. And they disperse the mob and take the pilot to a healer hall, and they have the satchel. And the healer says, "We'll take the pilot, but get that out of here." And they take the satchel back to the ship, and Dav is like in communication with it because he's seen Norbert's before. He's a scout, and Aliana is like, "What is in the satchel?" And he opens it, and this fuzzy thing pops out. And she goes, "This is why we had an angry mob."
And yep, that was why, because
Well, some people just don't react well to Norbears, and
No,
Yeah.
they
it's
say
kind of
mind control.
a litmus test, right? Of
the Norbears communicate through imagery, and one of the things they demand of you, and they do demand, is if once, are you coming up to be my Norbear?
Okay, who do you know?
Who do you know? They show you pictures of the people they know, and they share with you, not quite to the Clifford Simac, I share with you my
I share with you
mind,
my mind. Yes.
but they share you, and then they expect you to share back. This is somebody I have known. Do you know this person? What are your impressions of this person? These are my impressions of this person. This person is trustworthy. I don't trust this person, whatever. And that's part of how they have, in effect, civilized themselves along the way, and how they help other people, or can help other people. If you're afraid of somebody seeing inside your head, of sharing who you know, if you're a pirate and you start sharing who you could get somebody in trouble. So there's a lot of potential there, and we've been using some of it along the way. This one is Sprite.
This
She
is
is not a
Sprite.
Norbear.
when you live in Maine, you have to have a giant cat. It's
You
just
have to have a name. Yes.
it's just required. So so what else? We should probably wrap it up. What else might we say about Trader's Leap that may be important that we haven't covered? This is the coming to terms with. Patty's she was coming of age previously, but now she's really coming into her own
Yes.
in this book.
This is Patty's step into strong womanhood. This is actually our homage to two characters who have been with us since we created the Liaden Universe, and who appear first in the Crystal books, Loot and Moonhawk. It's our giving them a rest. They've been working a long time, and they deserve peace. So that was part of the importance of the book for us.
So the portion of it we see online, and we see particularly when we go to conventions. What we have literally had people come up to us and grab our arms or our hands and say, "Tell me it's not over. Tell me it's not over." They don't want the series to be over, and frankly, we're having a lot of fun with it. And there are still portions of it that we haven't finished exploring. And then we know that we haven't done this part, we haven't done that part. But this book allowed us to bring several
New characters
in, but at the same time, it allowed us to bring closure to a couple of long lines. While the Department of the Interior threads may not be over entirely, for the most part they're going to have to be, because the department has been solved. But at the same time,
it's everything's done but the mop-up.
But at the same time, once you've solved that doesn't mean that all the problems in the universe disappear and those other problems come up. What do you do about trade? What do you do about the thing that's been unleashed by Valcon, by saying, if you have a working artificial intelligence, a working logic that is in fact
contributing
sentient,
to society,
that is in fact sentient,
they are people.
They are people. And,
Oops. And I think Theo recognized that and said, geez, that changes everything. What's he thinking? That it changes everything.
So,
like for instance, Theo's sentient starship. What's it?
Yep.
Bashimo, yeah.
That too. But Trader's Leap and Accepting the Lance together, and they were one book at one point. We did you a favor by unwinding them and making them two books instead of one 300,000 word book.
Yeah, it would have been a 300,000 word book.
With these two books, we've kind of finally finished the Agent of Change arc. And while the series, the universe goes on, there are more more and newer pathways to take now. We've solved the old problem.
Well, that sounds like an excellent place to leave it. And the book is Trader's Leap. It's at booksellers everywhere by Sharon Lee and Steve Miller. Sharon Lee and Steve Miller, thank you so much for talking with us about this.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
And you too. And the cat.
And Sprite.
And Sprite.
Sprite. Here is another entry in David Weber's Honor Harrington series masterpiece, Uncompromising Honor. Honor keeps her promise. The Solarian League. For hundreds of years they have borne the banner of human civilization, but the bureaucratic mandarins who rule today's League are corrupt and looking for scapegoats. They've decided the upstart Star Kingdom of Manticore must be annihilated. Uncompromising courage. Honor Harrington has worn the Star Kingdom's uniform for half a century. Very few know war the way Honor Harrington does. So far, hers has been a voice of caution. But now the Mandarins have committed atrocities such as the galaxy has not known in 1,000 years. They have finally killed too many of the people Honor Harrington loves. Uncompromising vengeance. Now Honor Harrington is coming for the Solarian League, and hell is riding in her wake. And now, David Weber's Uncompromising Honor.
System Defense HQ. City of Columbia, Beowulf. Beowulf System.
Sir, they've altered course, Dunstan Myers announced sharply. They're breaking off their run on Cassandra, and they've increased acceleration to 468 gravities.
I see it, Cheryl. McAvoy crossed the huge dimly lit chamber to stand beside the ops officer, watching vectors shift and flow as Ghost Rider reported the Solly's changing heading, and he frowned as he wondered what the hell they were up to now. Their initial velocity of 600 kps towards Cassandra had increased to 12,236 kps since their arrival. That meant that at their initial acceleration, it would have taken them 48 minutes just to decelerate to zero and start back the way they'd come. But that wasn't what they were doing. They'd turned directly out system instead, at right angles to their current vector, and they'd started their run from so far out that they were still barely 6 million kilometers inside the limit. With that acceleration, bending their vector that sharply, they could be back across the wall in barely 27 minutes. And if all they're really doing is running the hell away, that's fine, he thought. Maybe this is a panic reaction. Maybe they didn't expect to see Apollo coming at them at all, and now that it has, they're headed for the high timber. But it's hard to imagine they could have been that stupid. They had to realize we'd deploy MDMs to cover our critical star systems. The acceleration change does suggest they've just cut loose whatever pods they were towing, though, and they haven't launched a damn thing back at us, which sure looks like a panic reaction, plain and simple. If I were them, and if I didn't care any more about civilian casualties than whatever bastard came up with Buccaneer and Parthian shot, I'd have launched everything I had before I turned away on the theory that even inaccurate birds had to be more effective than birds that were never launched at all. But they didn't do that. Or at least it sure looks like they just jettisoned their pods without even trying to launch. Does that mean they've decided Parthian shot was a bad idea? That could make sense after what happened in Mesa, if they want to try to convince people they hold the moral high ground. But it also suggests they really thought they could get close enough to Cassandra to target their fire accurately. So does that mean Hamish was right? Were they as surprised as we were by what happened to Mycroft? Or were they really dumb enough to not anticipate system defense MDMs at all? Or did they... He shook himself. There was no way in hell he could answer any of those questions. All he could do now was wait and hope the POWs could answer them for him later.
That was another entry in the complete audiobook serialization of Uncompromising Honor by David Weber. And that's it for the podcast. Thanks to Audible.com and to podcast theme composer Ruth Judkowitz. and a lilting rendition of The Age of Aquarius, performed by an all-theremin band with a little snare added to keep the beat up. Plus, thanks, praise, and gratitude to Sharon Lee and Steve Miller, author of Trader's Leap. Please join us next time here at the hammering heart of science fiction and fantasy, and keep reaching for the stars.